I was recently contacted by a subscriber by the name of Owen, and Owen finds himself in an interesting situation. He is still very much committed to the hobby of comic book collecting, while at the same time he has some other interests that he wants to pursue. Given that Owen doesn't have an infinite amount of money, his question is, how does he still stay involved with comics while also funding some of these other activities? And I realized that there could be a lot of people out there like Owen that find themselves in this type of situation where they have lots of things that they want to do, but they need to find a way to find a balance between these competing priorities. So in this video, what I will attempt to do is to offer those of you out there in this situation with some practical tips and pointers for things that you might be able to do to free up some capital while still being invested, if you will, in the hobby of comic book collecting. And as a reminder, this video is sponsored by My Slabs, and we'll talk a little bit more about My Slabs later in this video, so I encourage you to stay tuned for that. The first tip that I want to offer is to make a budget, stick with it, and to make sure that you're actually committed to it. And I say this because a lot of people will say that they want to save money, but they never take the time to put pen to paper to identify specifically how much money it is that they need to save or set aside for these other activities. So by writing it out, you actually can visualize it. And once you have that number, then you can hopefully find other parts of your life where you can pull that money from to set it aside for these other things that are important to you. I say that you should be committed to this because reducing your spending is easy to say, it's much harder to do, right? I always say that it is easy to spend money. It is not necessarily easy to make money nor to actually keep money. So make sure that you are truly committed to this. Make sure you understand how much money it is that you need, and then go and find those savings, because the reality is that you probably have the money. You're just nickeling and diming it away in various ways. The second tip that I want to offer is to refresh your pull list. And what I mean by this is you should take a look at the books that are on your pull list, and you should refine that list. Make sure that the books that are on your list are books and titles that you are still interested in reading. If there is something that's on the list that you're not reading right now, you may want to consider eliminating it. If your list is too big and you're spending lots of money every single week, every single month on lots of new books, you may want to reduce your list as well. Cull it back to those books that are truly important to you. And I'll tell you a little bit later how to offset that. But for the moment, refine your list, get it small, get it to be a place where you are comfortable and you know that you're truly interested in those books. The other thing that you may want to consider is to actually move away from your local comic shop. And it pains me to say that, but this video is all about helping you to find money for other things that are important in your life, which could be saving up for a wedding or paying for your kid. Those things are much more important than comics. So I say that knowing that this is not necessarily an easy thing to say nor to do, but it might be important. When I say move away from your local comic shop, what I am suggesting is that you consider actually having a pull list or pre-ordering comics with some of the virtual retailers that are out there. And there are a lot of them out there that offer some substantive discounts on comics. MyComicShop.com, for example, offers 35% off of books that you pre-order. So this could be something that you are interested in. You have to definitely know what is coming out. You have to place your pre-book by a certain period of time, but this is a great way to save, again, 35%, which is not chump change. That is not chump change in any way, shape, or form, and it's substantive depending upon how many new comics you might actually be buying. So consider it. If you do not have a pull list, you might want to consider getting one because, again, even if you stay with a local comic shop, a lot of comic shops will offer you 10% off if you're a good customer. And as I mentioned, if you have a pull list digitally, you can save 35%. Now, this is great versus just going to the comic shop and paying full cover price anytime you want a new book. So if you have a pull list, refine it, make it a little smaller. If you don't have one, set one up, and in both cases, consider going digital or virtual in order to save a couple of bucks. So as I alluded to at the top of the video, let's have a word from my friends over at MySlabs.
Tired of paying 10%, 15% or more to sell your cards, comics, and digital collectibles? How does 1% sound? Too good to be true? Well, not anymore. MySlabs.com is the web's premier user-driven marketplace for buying and selling slabbed cards, sealed wax, and now slabbed comics and digital collectibles. So the next time you're forced to pay 10% or more to sell something from your collection, head over to MySlabs.com and join the 1% revolution.
The third tip that I want to offer is to go digital. And what I mean by that is read digital comics. And this is not something that people want to hear about in a lot of cases, but it is an important thing to consider, especially if you are trying to save some money. With both Marvel and DC and also Comixology, you can actually pay a flat fee per month and get access to thousands of comics that you can read for that monthly fee. This is a great way to go if you're trying to save money. The drawback, of course, is that the new comics that come out this week, for example, will not be available digitally for a few months. But again, this is all about saving some money, and as a result of that, you may have to suffer some inconveniences. But digital is not a bad way to go. The fourth tip that I want to offer up is to watch YouTube content. This video is all about identifying ways where you can actually save money while simultaneously still being involved in the hobby of comics. And there are some amazing YouTubers out there that are creating content every single day. And I'm talking pre-recorded content, but also live streams and chats that you can participate in and still be involved in the hobby. In addition to those types of YouTubers, there's also channels like Comics Explain. And Comics Explain does a really wonderful job of providing us with in-depth overviews of characters that are hot and popular. He also talks about story arcs and some current events. So if you want to stay immersed in the hobby, using YouTube is not a bad way to go. The one downside, however, to some YouTube content is that it does create FOMO, so you're going to have to balance that content with your need to actually save money, but I will allow you to figure out where to draw those lines. And if you're looking for tips on how to avoid FOMO, there are videos here on the channel that can help you to do that as well. My fifth and final tip is to move away from floppies. I personally am a huge fan of individual comic issues. That is my thing. But if you are looking to save money, one way to go is to look at collected works and graphic novels. Even with modern comics, if you wait a certain period of time, those individual issues will be collected into a graphic novel of some sort that you can pick up for a couple of bucks. And this is a great way to still be involved, save some money, and still be able to read some of the modern stories that are coming out. As you would imagine, older stories are also collected in lots of different ways, and so you have ample opportunity to still read some of those older stories if you don't want to go digital and you still want a physical something in your hand. I will tell you that there are also discount bookstores out there that will buy from Marvel, from DC, and from other publishers graphic novels, reduce the cost of them because they're older, so you have an opportunity to read some of those older stories for less money because they're at these discount stores. Like Ali is one of them that readily comes to mind. So again, wanted to offer up in this video some practical tips and pointers for ways that you can carve out some money to be able to do some other things that are important to you in your life while simultaneously still allowing you to be part of this hobby. As you have now reached the end of this video, if you have some additional tips, pointers, and thoughts that you want to offer up, I want to encourage you to leave those thoughts down in the comment section, because it's impossible for me to come up with all the good ideas and to verbalize them in one brief video. As always, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.